Oh, thanks, Brian Moss. Appreciate it. All right, we are here. All right, man. This is a interesting one for me, that's for sure. Let's make sure that all my ducks are in a row here. Not a lot of people in here. We should have a full lobby. I just want to check the stream really quick. Make sure that all my ducks are in the same pond and that the quality is alright for the time being, at least. It definitely looks as if we've got halfway decent connection for the time being. Hopefully it stays that way. I've not had good history with streaming races at Hungary. Although it could be worse, I suppose. This is a very interesting one for me. This will be my last broadcast here in my current setup, which I'll explain a little bit more later, but should be a fun one tonight. The Hungaroring always proves for some interesting racing, especially when you got the 20 really talented drivers on the grid. Should be very, very fun to watch. That can't actually be his name. WS Visa Cash App underscore VTech 87 PR1. There is no way he's changed his name to that. I mean, Jesus. Should have a full grid tonight. That's what I'm seeing. Which will be fantastic. We got a good thing going. We got a good thing going. I don't know the words to the song, but I'm pretty sure that's the only lyrics in it. You know what's really interesting is that when I go to record a race or something and I have to have my hotspot on, naturally that's my internet source, how just warm, apologies for this, just how warm my phone gets. It is something. That's, oh my god, that's his actual name. WS Visa _ Cash App _ VTech 87 PR1. That's just painful. Wild. Let me make sure once more that all my test 1 2 1 2. That's pretty good. Maybe I didn't need to turn. There we go. How's that? A little better. Pointing in the correct direction now, at least. So we got Brian Mosser in the Alpine, Electric Blade in the Ferrari, Frenchie in the AlphaTauri, Kate Thomas in the McLaren. It's very odd to see Kate Thomas not in a Red Bull, but there he is. Sleigh Riser in the Red Bull, Fire Up Flow in the Ferrari, Lemanigos in the Aston Martin, DB DeBest in the Mercedes, Wild Poros in the Haas, Ray in the Kick, the Alfa Romeo, the Sauber, Adel Tonian in the other AlphaTauri. We got the Williams pair of MMR Hightower and WS Visa _ Cash App VTech 87 PR1. You don't actually expect me to say that full name every time, do you? Well, I'm going to. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. There's just no way. I may be an idiot, but I'm not stupid. Oh, and we've got Ayahuasca in here as well. That'll be good. Now that I actually know how to pronounce his name correctly. Apparently that's a weed thing. I never did weed, so I didn't know what an ayahuasca was until I searched it and how to pronounce it. We should have a full 20 checked in here, which will be good for the 35 laps around the Hungaroring. Should be a fun race today. This is a very interesting track. A lot of the time when we look at Hungary as a circuit, it's a very old-style track, so a lot of overtakes are going to have to be made, the hard way, as opposed to with DRS, if the overtakes are to happen. So should be a very interesting race, to say the least. Very, very excited. Just minutes away here. Probably seconds away once Knuckles gets in. And there he goes. Oh, he's flying the Welsh flag tonight. Bit bold. Who are we missing here? I don't think anybody. We are missing just an extra McLaren, which I believe is joining now. And that will be Valentine 94 in the McLaren. Tell you what, him and Cake is a very good driver combo. I do like that driver pairing a lot. I think Valentine sometimes maybe just needs a little bit... he's a very veteran driver. He's over 100 races now, but I think Kate Thomas surpassed that already, if he hasn't. And I think Kate Thomas, has been around these games a lot more than Valentine. I think Cake is definitely the right person for the having the part. About ready to go. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. As we are just about ready to go here. 25 seconds remaining until our cast gets underway. Want to take the time for thanking you now. Like, subscribe, get some food, get a popcorn, get some beer, anything you'd like. It's going to be a fun one. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second round of this 12th MWeS Esports F1 season. And it's taking place at the Hungaroring in Budapest, Hungary here. 20 drivers on this Division 2 grid on what is a very old-style circuit. One of those. Tomorrow, I will be leaving for Connecticut. I will be attending the Connecticut Broadcasting School down there. That's in a very good place to be professionally trained. In the radio and TV broadcast world. Broadcasting school, how could you need that, Hotspot? Well, I tell you what, when you got companies like NBC Sports and ESPN, which are, based out of that Connecticut area, this is something you need to do. So I'm going to be taking the step and doing just that. It's a very, very exciting time in my life, and I can't wait to hopefully stay along the ride here in the Midwest and provide even more knowledge to what has already been what I'd like to say a successful partnership between myself and the league. I've been around this league since season 2. It was the opening season for Division 2. Been around since the first race, which was held at the Albert Park Circuit. Won by Scavney, I believe. And I tell you what, it's been an absolute pleasure being able to be here this long. And I definitely hope that one day I can repay the favor even more. Well, it appears our first driver out on track will be one of the Williams driver. It is going to be the Williams of Hightower, making his way out onto track in toward the first corner. One of the few drivers to have chosen the medium tires. That's a bit of an interesting decision, but doing the old Scavney routine here, taking the medium tires first thing in the qualifying session, getting yourself a little bit more accustomed to the circuit on the race tire. We do see that a little bit more often nowadays. It used to be only Scavney doing it. That's why it is the Scavney routine, in my opinion. And Hightower is following suit as he makes his way up through Turn 4. And towards Sector 2 now, get the pair of the Red Bulls out on track of Slayerized and Knuckles. Hightower, as I said, will be the first driver out on track. We've also got Valentine in this, and I was talking about in the pre-show. This McLaren partnership with Kate Thomas and Valentine, I like a lot. These are two very competitive guys who, in their own rights, are very hard on themselves when they don't have good results. Some more than others for sure. And I think these two are definitely two of which that, they will kick themselves if they don't have good results. And I think that is the partnership that these two drivers need to better themselves, and I can't wait. Word from Brian is a dry quali and dry race. That is a very good. That means we're going to get some good action on the way. Thank you to Damon for saying that. First driver out on track, making his way out of the 14th corner. The final corner is that of Hightower as he heads down the pit straight for the first timed lap of the session. I do believe, he doesn't have his energy store on at the moment. I think, again, these are just reconnaissance laps that we can see. Behind him, Valentine is on a flyer, but we'll stay along with Hightower, exiting Turn 1 now, down the hill through the rest of Sector 2, one of the only DRS sections on this track. It's down the pit straight and exiting Turn 1. Through Turn 2 and eventually through Turn 3, as you can see there. Usually you'll cut off a little bit more of the apex curb, up the hill, the off-camber left-hander sharply of Turn 4. Into the long, sweeping right-hander at Turn 5. Got to watch out for the apex curb. Into the worst chicane in Formula 1 of Turn 6 and 7, as we can see here. Just a little bit of again, this is a reconnaissance lap from him through Turn 9, Turn 10 now. Sorry, that was Turn 8. This is Turn 9, now into Turn 10. The right-hander of Turn 11, we do see a fair bit of action happen down this back straight, exiting Turn 11 and into the right-hander at Turn 12 here. Oh, he's gone well deep into the braking zone as Hightower. Gets back on the circuit through Turn 13 now, bit of a NASCAR kind of corner. You can have two lines through on the outside and the inside, as well as through Turn 14, except the only difference between 13 and 14 is slightly more, 13 has slightly more camber than 14, so the second line through 14 isn't always there. Hightower 120, that is obviously not going to be a representative lap, but it's good to get one on the board, and that is your track guide. DB to best 116.765. I think that may even be a little bit on the slower side. We'll have to wait and see. Well, I could be wrong. Fire Up Flow's gone second at a 116.876. Wild Poros in the Haas 116.293. So I guess that might just be an average lap there from Fire Up Flow. Very well could be. The Williams across the line now. A Visa Cash App VTEC. Sorry, WS Visa Cash App VTEC 87 PR1. That's just VTEC. He that's a couple of times has changed his name now, but VTEC has gone himself P4 now. If you're aware with VTEC, you'll know this guy has seen it all here in the Midwest F1 League. He's been to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Former Division 1 driver. He's back here in Division 2, looking to strut his stuff once more and get himself back into the Pinnacle Division. A lot of talented drivers, I would believe, on the cusp of making that move upwards once again. It's incredible, though, the amount of talented drivers that we do find. It's sad that there's only 20 seats available, but, maybe in a couple of years when we get, when we get Audi and eventually perhaps Andretti joining the grid, we'll have 22 drivers in sessions, and we'll see some more Division 1 seats open up. It'll be fun to see. But for now, only the 20, and I tell you what, I think at least a good, It's a very sink or swim type game for Division 1, as I've said time and time again. There's a lot of drivers here I think could very well fit into Division 1. There's only a couple of drivers here I would say could survive in Division 1. VTEC could definitely make it up. Cake Thomas, former Division 1 driver in himself. Reimer, I think, could really get up there and stay up there. He is a very talented driver in his own rights. Electric Blade, Ayahuasca, who's gone second now, 116.688. And then Electric Blade, as we had just mentioned, a 116.506. Two good drivers there, two good laps. Currently, the top second of qualifying time goes from that first spot all the way down to P8, which is occupied by Knuckles. Let's take a look at the drivers and constructor standings heading into this round. For the remaining Division 2 drivers, Reimer atop the table at 32. He's actually tied with VTEC. Fire Up Flow behind them at 30. 28 for Cake Thomas, 26 for Knuckles, 24 for Electric Blade. Manny goes at 23. Noganator and Valentine tied at 22. Brian Mosser at 20. And that is it for points scorers here in Division 2. As far as the constructors are concerned, it is that of the Alpine team on top at 57 points. Aston Martin 55, Ferrari 54, and McLaren 57 points. Separate the top four teams after the first round of the season. Red Bull 26, Alfa Romeo 22, AlphaTauri at 19. That is the final point scoring team. Haas, Williams, and Mercedes still have yet to score, but only the second round of the season. Anything can happen. I think just considering, how much time we do have left, there's really no takeaways to be drawn yet. It's not like we're going to be seeing Max Verstappen level of dominance from anybody here. If we do, then they'll be on their way into Division 1 as quickly as they started here in Division 2. Let's see if there's anybody else coming to time lapse here. We do have the Aston Martin of Reimer who's about to start one. This is an interesting one. Let's go with him, although he's only through 6 and 7. I was trying to look. I thought it was actually his teammate. Manigos is on the way in. He's P10 at the moment. Ray, who I believe is going to be starting another one here. No, he's actually just finished one. Improves by 22.5 seconds, by the way. He's gone P11. Final Flame, a 1:15.576. He's the first driver of the day into the 1:15 range and into the mid-1:15s. He saved himself no time whatsoever. That is a great effort from the Haas. And currently, a Haas 1 and 2. 10 minutes and 30 seconds remain in the session. Next up to the line, I believe, will be that Aston Martin of Reimer, still yet to put together a time. Out of the final corner he goes, down the pit straight. Let's see what he does here. I don't expect him to be massively quick on the straights. He's a guy that likes to set up his cars more or less for the slow speed sector. So through Sector 2 is where I can expect this car to dominate. Through Sector 2 and in through Sector 3 is where this car will shine. Through the speed here, I do think the car might be a little bit slower, so anything he capitalizes on through Sector 2 and 3 is going to have to negate the slow through Sector 1. But we'll wait and see. I mean, I could be wrong. It's a 27.3 through the first sector, out of Turn 4 very nicely. One of the only drivers I've seen take that corner so brilliantly as it is time and time again. In through Turn 6 and 7 now. A little bit of an early braking zone, but actually that's helped them out very well. That was a very clean line through the terrible chicane. Through turn 9 looks good. Through turn 10 now. Holding that car in 6th gear. And look at how he holds turn 11 as well. It's a 54.3. Through sector 2. 1 minute has elapsed here. He's got 15 seconds to round the start-finish line into turn 13 now. I think Reimer also another one of those drivers that don't necessarily get their best attempts first time. Nobody does, but Reimer could be a little bit further behind here. He will go second, however, 1:16.185, and for a very first attempt, that's pretty good. Still 6/10 of a second off of Final Flame, but that is a damn good effort to have here in the start. Wild Poros, who was provisional pole sitter earlier on, out on track, as well as Electric Blade. Originally, it was the top 8 separated by the second. It's now only the top 4. But these times are just going to keep getting faster. And the fact that we have a dry race today is going to help as well. We're going to see these drivers make genuine overtakes. And what is happening here? That is the Alpine of Brian Mosser. Now, it looked to me like Brian Mosser was very unhappy with the Aston Martin's antics there. We didn't really go on with Reimer quick enough to see what had actually happened, but Brian Mosser did not appear happy with what I would assume he believes is being blocked on a timed lap there, so he will have to buckle down and get another one going here. Still 8 minutes to go in the session. He's in no panic of time, but he'll definitely want to get one going again shortly. So will Kate Thomas, currently resides P12. I know that he's got more in him. Los Mandigos about to start one now. Bit of a, well, who's that just crossed the line? That was the Williams of, I believe, who was that? Hightower's gone P11. I think it was Hightower who started his lap, or finished it. Mandy goes out of turn 1, down the DRS section into turn 2. Mandy goes at the moment is slightly uncharacteristically off the pace. Of course, it's only got one timed lap under his belt so far. 7.5 minutes to go. He's about 0.2 of a second quicker through the first sector. That'll definitely help. That'll put him roughly that P12. Should it hold? Let's see as he makes his way through 6 and 7. Tell you what, he's held quite nicely. He's used a lot of the curb on exit, which may hurt him a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. Through turn 9, through 10. It's going to depend on how he holds turn 11 here. Does he keep it within track limits? Yes, he does. Quicker by 0.3 of a second. Looking a good lap so far. Turn 12, 13, and 14 coming up here. He's going to have to ace these last 2 corners if he wants to get into the top 10. Tightly contested midfield, has to be said. P5 to P18, separated by the next second. Final corner there for Mandigos, and across the line he goes. He's going to go P11, a clean 0.4 quicker than his previous best. Moves to within 1.5 seconds of the top spot. Currently P11, which is around where we guessed he would be. And oh, by the way, that is 12/1000ths of a second clear of the AlphaTauri of Adaltonian for the time being. So very, very competitive. Knuckles making his way through Sector 2, although I don't believe this is going to be a timed lap from the Red Bull here. Ferrari fire up Flo on your screen now. He's on his way out. One of the Alfa Romeo drivers about to complete one here. It's the Noganator, and, well, this is not going to be a timed attempt from him, and I believe he's on low fuel as well. No, maybe not. I think we might be seeing a timer here from Noganator. Let's see. If you were with us a couple of seasons ago, Noganator had a very intense championship battle with that of Brian Mosser. Came down to the wire. Those two drivers getting into it time and time again. No love lost between the two. You know, I don't know how much animosity is there. There was a lot of steward reports we had to cover with these two's name in it, but the racing between them was so brilliant, it always resulted in fireworks. Sometimes the fireworks would just explode randomly, and you'd get accidents like that. So, I mean, Noganator now, I think, has kind of dialed it down a bit, as well as Brian Mosser. There's been a lot of quick drivers making their way into Division 2 here. Maybe they just haven't gotten back up to snuff with the drivers that have come in, but still two very talented drivers in their own right. By the way, if I sound like I'm taking the piss from anybody here in Division 2, you have to be talented to get this far. These are some of the best drivers I've seen, and Division 1 is only quicker than that. And I tell you what, again, I wish there was more than 20 seats available in Division 1, because quite honestly, we got a couple of guys here in Division 2 who would do quite well. Noganator doing well in this timed lap so far, into turn 13 now. About 4 minutes and 40 seconds remain. Holds the line nicely going through turn 13. Let's go, Reimer. Yeah, I tell you what, Reimer, for the time being, looking pretty good. He's not necessarily been a huge player in Division 2 so far, but he's doing well. Noganator P15. I think Reimer really fitting into this Division 2 grid. It's a grid that he feels he can be competitive in, whilst also not walking away with the grid. I mean, I don't believe he's been able to clock a win yet here in Division 2 since he's been around, say taking round 1. Yeah, Reimer yet to find a win here, but I tell you what, it's going to be on its way, that part's for sure. Having finished second last week, naturally. And by the way, Say, not on the grid tonight, and Say finished a clean 8 seconds ahead of the rest of the grid. So that's pretty much a win for Reimer there, has to be said. Reimer finishing second. Actually, funny story this. Reimer on currently back-to-back second-place finishes. Round 15 of Season 11 in Bahrain, and then Round 1 of Season 12 last week in Jeddah. So, good little string of results here from Reimer in the Midwest. He may have himself a fair shout for the win today if he can keep it clean. Well, speaking of Alfa Romeos, that's one off at the barriers there. It's Noganator, who I believe might just be getting out of the way for some of the drivers on behind. The time being, the top two cars, separated by less than a tenth of a second. Final Flame has really come out of the woodworks here and is putting in a great display so far. Reimer not far behind, 3 minutes and 10 seconds remain. The Red Bull of Knuckles on his way out now. I believe we're going to have one of the two Williams drivers across the line now. It's going to be that of VTEC, who has put himself P6, I believe. A very solid attempt from VTEC, the former Division 1 driver. Electric Blade about to start one here. I'm interested to see how this lap's going to go. DB DeBest, I believe, is making his way into turn 1 on a timed lap here. Yes, he is. So we'll go along with DB DeBest now. We'll catch up with Electric Blade after the Mercedes' lap is finished. Remember, Mercedes have yet to score so far this season. Heavy over the apex through turn 2. I'm a little surprised that the raised curb doesn't send him round like it does through turn 5. Well, we'll see that in a second. That used to be a terrible corner to try to race around. DB DeBest slow by over 0.6 of a second through Sector 1. So we'll go along with Electric Blade now. As he makes his way up the hill, he's quicker by only 1,000th of a second, and he's invalidated exiting turn 4. A little bit too much on the apex curb. It sent the car for a little bit of a wiggle in rotation, and unfortunately that timed lap will come to an end. 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining. I don't know how much fuel is in the Ferrari at this moment. He'll have to get back in quickly if he doesn't have enough to put together another timed attempt. Naturally, he is only going through Sector 2 now, so he could very well start another one here quite shortly. We do have Slayer Eye starting one now, currently 9th in the Red Bull. We have as well, coming out of the final corner, I believe that's the Mercedes of Anbu Mason. Yes, it is, across the line for him. Improves by about 1/10.5, only P14 still. His teammate of DB DeBest on the way in. DB's going to have to get in and out here very quickly. 90 seconds remain in the session. AlphaTauri of Adaltonia now. The most veteran Division 2 driver on the grid here. He goes P11, 1:16.737. I believe one of Adaltonian's best championship finishing positions was P4. Remember, you have to be P3 or upwards to get promoted to Division 1. Adaltonian had been on the cusp for a long time. And a minute to go here. It's still looking to see if he can rejuvenate his driving career and perhaps get himself into Division 1, because this guy would properly deserve it as well. Reimer starting another one here. This is it. This is the lap to pay attention to. 45 seconds remain here. The top two on out laps now. Reimer a flyer and Wild Poros on an out lap as well. As VTEC has retired. Where has that happened? That's in the pit lane, thankfully. Reimer exits turn 3 up the hill into turn 4. What does the timing line say? It's 8/100ths better. The Ferrari of Fire Up Flow's done it in the pit lane as well. Exiting turn 5 is the Aston Martin into the worst chicane in Formula 1 here. Turn 6 and 7. Exits quite nicely. Uses a lot of curb on the exit. You'll see drivers do that, but you'll see them more straddle the curb. He's gone clean over it. 10 seconds remain now. I'm thinking, will the Aston Martin of Mandigos get one here? It's going to be close, but I think he will. Exits turn 11 so nicely, but only quicker by about 1/10 net time here. Final couple of corners getting into the pit lane now. Reimer making it through turn 13 and 14. He will be the first of the final round of timed attempts here, going through turn 14. exits the corner now. He's looking like it's on a good lap, but let's see what he can put together, and across the line does improve by 0.2 of a second, stays third, improves by, as I said, 0.2, has about 0.3 back to Wild Poros, making his way through Sector 3. A 2.5 quicker through Sector 3 at the moment. That'll put him above Reimer if he can put a good result here with the end of the lap. Final flame, 1:15.518. That is the best lap of the session. Ayahuasca now through turn 12. Wild Poros across the line. Could the Haas's do a 1 and 2? No, Wild Poros will go P3. 1:15.755. Improves by quite a lot there. Within 2.5 Ayahuasca, one of the last drivers to come round here out of the final corner. Could he possibly make it to the line and spoil the party? No, he's actually slower by 9/1000ths there. That was looking a great lap from Ayahuasca. Unfortunately, he will only stay second. Knuckles now making his way, and I don't think this is going to be a timed attempt to look out for here. That will be the qualifying session. The top 8 separated by the first second of the pole time, P9 to P18, separated by the next second. It's a very competitive grid here in Division 2, always has been, and we're going to be looking for another one here. Final flame, your pole sitter for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Not necessarily convincingly, though. I mean, 1/10 is in its all. I mean, really, not all that much time when you really think about it. Less than a blink of an eye. I mean, that time there leads me to believe that it's going to be close enough for a legitimate challenger here. But Final Flame on pole, 1/10 over Ayahuasca in the Alpine in second. Wild Poros third. Great result from the Haas so far. Let's see if they can make it happen in the race. The Aston Martin of Reimer in fourth. DB DeBest fifth. Knuckles sixth. Electric Blade seventh. Slayrized eighth. Ray Ray ninth. VTech 10th. Cake Thomas 11th. 12th is Hightower. 13th Mandigos. 14th Adaltonian. 15th Fire Up Flow. 16th, Ambu Mason. 17th, Noganator. 18th, Brian Mosser. 19th is Frenchie. And rounding out the field, P20 is Valentine. So, Final Flame looking to hold the lead. Ayahuasca looking to challenge. Wild Poros looking for Haas to have a good result here. And Reimer searching for a third consecutive second-place finish here in Division 2. Well, Final Flame on pole, not convincingly. A dry race yet to come here should be very entertaining. Well, now would be a good time to look at the results and put in your predictions. Who you think is going to win. While you're at it, and while you're typing in the comment section, be sure to like and subscribe and, do whatever the hell you want. Honestly, I'm not going to beg for subs, but, it would be nice. Just a quick look at the calendar coming up here. I do believe Formation Lap is back on, which for the longest time we did not have Formation Lap on. So a quick look at the upcoming schedule. Obviously Hungary tonight, which we're at now. Australia next week, in alignment with the real-life Australian Grand Prix. We head to Zandvoort for round 4. Suzuka for round 5, also in alignment with the real-life Suzuka Grand Prix, which, as you know, has been moved up very much in the schedule this year. That'll be a very fun time to race Qatar for, round 6? So that is the next 4 rounds there in Monza after that. Should be a very fun season here, the 12th edition of this Midwest F1 League. Take the time now to thank you for inviting us into your homes here. And once again, it should be fun Grand Prix yet to come. It's a very old-style circuit, this. One of those tracks that people often refer to as Monaco without the barriers. I do have to agree with that. I mean, if overtakes are going to be made today, it's going to have to be done the hard way. Of course, DRS down the pit straight is helpful, but it's really only that one DRS section. From turn 1 to turn 2 DRS is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's a very short DRS zone. I would actually prefer it being from turn 11 to turn 12 being the DRS in that scenario, but it's not. Just the one. A lot of it today is going to be who makes the least amount of mistakes as well. If we look at track limits, time penalties, that's going to be a huge ordeal as well. This track has a lot of those corners that will catch you by surprise and will get the steward's attention. Second round of the season now. Jeddah, one of those tracks where you can really... You know, I think Jeddah, for the most part, is kind of a crapshoot as far as circuits go. This one, we're going to see who will run the most consistent, and that will kind of give us a better idea of who to look for in the championship going on through this season. Just waiting for the formation lap to begin here. Always like to give a couple of minutes to get the setups correctly, get the tire strategy, the fuel strategy as well. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day here in Hungary. It's a track that sometimes will get us by surprise with a little bit of wet weather. Not going to be today, however. It looks very clear. And that's going to be good for us. You know, it used to be that the rain would be the preferred situation for having racing. It was kind of one of those times where we'd get some mixing about going on. Not anymore. It is the dry now, which provides the better racing. And here we go. Looks like formation lap about to be underway here. Got the Haas of Final Flame on pole position. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to be able to make something happen here. If he's going to be able to hold off the challenging Alpine of Ayahuasca. It's going to be a fun one to see if that's going to be the case. Let's take a look at the tire strategy coming up here. A fair little mix here. The top spot, Final Flame, and actually both the Haas drivers on the mediums. Ayahuasca taking the hards. That's a bit of a bold strategy there. Reimer taking the softs. Reimer is known for taking odd strategies, and here he's done it again. P5, 6, and 7 on the mediums. Slayer Eyes down to Kate Thomas all on the softs. That's a little bit of a bold strategy, that. Hightower, Manigos, Adeltonian, Fire Up, Flow the mediums, and Boo Mason the softs, Noganator the mediums, the pair of Brian Mosser and Frenchie on the hards, and Valentine has gone soft there in P20. So Final Flame here knows that he's had a very good qualifying session, and he'll know now that Ayahuasca is on slower tires behind him. If he can get away well, and crucially if his teammate of Wild Poros can get away well, there should be no reason why we don't see two Haas drivers atop the grid exiting turn 1. Especially if Ayahuasca, especially on starting on the grid on the hard tires, that's going to be very difficult to get away from there. When you start on the harder compound, it will be quite difficult there. I would assume Ayahuasca might be a sitting duck off the start here, it'd have to be said. Reimer starting on the softs, I would assume he's going to be quite aggressive in the early going, but Reimer's grid starts are not exactly what he's known for. As we've got an Alfa Romeo, that's Ray around. On the formation lap, he's spun that coming out of turn 12. It's a very odd place for that to happen, and even more odd that it's under formation lap as well. Well, it looks as if the Haas of Final Flame making his way to the grid. Ayahuasca lines up next to him. Let's see, where does Ayahuasca choose to line up the car? It looks as if he will be pointed more towards the inside of the circuit rather than trying to aim his way across in front of the Haas here. Wild Poros is kind of looking to shoot the gap in between. 15 to 17 for soft to mediums, 17 to 23 for medium to hard. And now here we go. The lights turning on here in Hungary for the second round of the 12th season. The MWeS F1 League, 5 lights are on. And they are off. Who got the better start here? It looks as if Final Flame has gotten away predictably well. Ayahuasca's gotten away more well than I expected. But down to the inside is Wild Poros. He's going to challenge his teammate into the first corner. This is a ballsy choice. And Wild Poros, from third on the grid, will take Final Flame into the first corner. Reimer stays stagnant there in fourth. Ayahuasca, despite being overtaken by both Haas drivers, does not fall farther than third. Although under pressure now from the Aston Martin behind. I believe we had Ray and Slayer Eyes battling it out there. We still do, side by side, going up the hill through turn 4. Oh, and Ray doing the right thing there and backing out. That was going to be catastrophic if he didn't. But, crucially, It was a Haas 1-2 that I predicted, but the order of which the Haas's were in is not what I predicted. Wild Poros taking the lead. A little bit further back, Electric Blade trying to find a move around DB to best. DB on what I believe are... Nope, he's on medium tires as well. Again, 17 to 23. That's the pit window for these medium tires. Exiting turn 11 and in towards turn 12 here. Looks as if the two Red Bull drivers will invert positions there, P7 and P8. A little bit of a shake there for Wild Poros exiting turn 13. Will make his way around the final corner, and that will be about that. Adeltonian and Valentine side by side. Adeltonian's at a good spot here, up from 20th to P17. Not a bad start. VTech now 0.2 of a second behind Ray here, looking to maybe send one, and no, it's not going to happen quite yet. Oh, but the McLaren of Cake Thomas nearly went clean into the back end of the Williams in question, and Cake Thomas is going to go wide and is now side by side with Mandigos heading down the hill in towards turn 2. Cake on the inside. Mandigos will now have the inside going through turn 3. Oh, and will he get around him? Yes, he will. Cake Thomas, despite losing the spot to VTech, will gain the spot back on Mandigos there cleanly. Nicely done. Electric Blade still 0.3 of a second behind DB to best. The two Haas drivers have a second advantage over Ayahuasca. I believe that is Cake Thomas tumbling down the order, exiting turn 5, and I don't know if he's had help from behind or he spun it on the curb. But Cake Thomas, who, well, very unfortunate for him. So making their way into turn 12 now. Again, the two Haas drivers atop the charts at the moment. Slayerized up one spot. Knuckles has dropped back 2, and he's let his teammate pass for one of them. Making their way through turn 14 now. VTech trying to find the inside here of Ray. Way down the inside of turn 14. They're going to be side by side down the pit straight. DRS will be activated, but not this time. Remember, it's only the one detection zone, so they won't even get it coming out of turn 1. Down to the inside is VTech. And, wow, he'll have that spot very nicely done there over Ray. Up to P9 for VTech. Still a half second between the two Haas drivers. And, oh, look at the gap they've put on Ayahuasca. It's an additional second. Up to 2 seconds now. Reimer, speaking of battling Ayahuasca, really getting close here to the Alpine. I tell you what, Reimer's soft tires are good for now. He'll need to get around Ayahuasca quickly if he wants any real shot at catching the podium, the rest of the podium ahead. Oh, goodness me. Well, it's a half a second advantage here for Wild Poros over his teammate of Final Flame. I'm just wondering how much will Final Flame try to overtake with DRS down the pit straight. Of course, he won't be facing any DRS pressure from behind, so it's really a 1v1 for the battle for the lead here. Of course, between two teammates. I mean, what do you decide to do? Do you go for it? Just Final Flame? I mean, he's got DRS. He's not appearing to pressure. He's saving up his battery as much as he can. And now is to put an additional second back to the Alpine for the third spot. Reimer very close to having a look at the Alpine here. Not quite close enough. He'll have DRS now as Fire Up Flow getting around Noganator into turn 1, that being back for P12. Oh, and there's a yellow flag, and it is Noganator who's gone round. This is exiting turn 1, and it looks as if he's done it relatively by himself, probably just on pure oversteer. You can get that exiting turn 1. He's side by side with Brian Mosser now. Remember, no love lost between these two, although instead of battling for the lead, they're battling for P17. And remember, that was 2 seasons ago those guys were battling for championship spots. Slightly a bit of a fall from grace is what it appears to be. But, I mean, that's just kind of how quickly life moves on here in Midwest F1. You either prove your worth and stay in Division 1, or you get sent back down. That's all there is to it. And sometimes when you see drivers that make it to Division 1 and they, go back down to Division 2 for a little bit, sometimes they just never resurface. Which is unfortunate. Because, again, the talent you have to even make it here to Division 2. If you get to Division 1, you are elite. That's the bottom line. And now do we see an overtake for the Haas's? No, but he does move within about 0.3 of his teammate there. It looks as if VTech getting around Knuckles into turn 1. Yes, he does. He's done that quite early, even before the braking zone. Nicely done. Ray and Mandy go side by side. This is a tight one through turn 1. Fire Up Flow watches on and hoping that one of them makes a mistake. Mandigos gets away well. Ray will not have DRS, and that'll allow Fire Up Flow down to the inside. Ray pushes wide. And it looks as if Ray's going to hold the spot for now. Adaltonian not necessarily closing in behind. Again, sometimes it's better to just wait and see if mistakes are made. So Ray loses out to P10. It was a good overtake for Mandigos to make it happen, and Valentine is the first victim of track limits so far today. And that's exiting turn 4. I hate to say it, but that's going to be the place where it happens. Turn 11 you got to watch out for as well, as you just saw Wild Poros go a little bit wide out of the corner. A little bit further back. Once again, this battle for P11's heating up pretty good here. Fire Up Flow looking for it. Adaltonian is in this battle. He's a little bit further behind, but with DRS involved, it's going to help him. Oh, that was contact there between Fire Up Flow and Ray. Little bit of contact made between the front wing of the Ferrari and the rear wing of the Alfa Romeo. And now as they exit the final corner, down the pit straight they go. The Haas drivers ahead within 0.2 of each other. That could get interesting. Adaltonian down to the inside. Ray will not have DRS to the back end of Fire Up Flow. I think did Fire Up, was he ahead? No, he must have been behind by the time they got into the detection zone. Heading into turn 14, yeah, that would make sense. So Ray kind of loses out on DRS games there. Tell you what, some good battles happening up and down the grid. Again, if these overtakes are going to have to be made, they're either with DRS or they're going to have to be done the hard way, and there's only really one viable DRS zone on this track, and it is down the pit straight into turn 1. So we'll have to wait and see, but now what we see is this. The duo of Wild Poros and Final Flame have etched a 4-second lead over Ayahuasca in third. Of course, Ayahuasca being on the hard tires, I mean, that's not going to help him, but I highly doubt the delta is so much with the tires themselves. I think these pair of Haas drivers might just be that damn quick. As they exit the final corner, Final Flame will again be in pursuit of his teammate. He is using overtake this time. I think what he's doing is kind of seeing how much he can get close to his teammate without disrupting them, because now he's put an additional half a second. Back to Ayahuasca, exiting turn 1 they go, down the hill into turn 2. As Ray into the pit lane early here. Oh, that was a big shuffle there for Brian Mosser exiting the corner. Andrew Mason to the outside of Hightower into turn 1. Brian Mosser nearly had went around there coming out of the final corner. And, well, he was able to hold the car, but that was a noticeable wiggle. We'll check back with that in a minute. VTech within a couple of tenths of Slayerized here. This is up through turn 4. 0.3 of a second here. Mandigos also within 1.5 tenths now with Fire Up Flow as they make their way into turn 5. Wouldn't really expect to see any overtakes happen here. I would say the next zone truly is coming out of turn 11 into turn 12. That's the only other spot I could see on the circuit that's not turn 1 where the overtake could happen. Valentine, they're losing a couple of spots. 3 spots to be exact. I think maybe did he lose one to Mosser, Noganator, and then his teammate. I think that was a wiggle coming out of turn 5. Thankfully, it doesn't appear that he's hit anything, and the track stays green. Valentine, again, the first driver so far today to have picked up a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. It's relatively early on, but, I mean, again, this track is very difficult to keep it clean in. And now, once again, we see the two Haas drivers very close together. Although what I will say is this, there's only so far you can go before you start getting in each other's way, and I think if that's what we may see soon. Slayerized and VTech side by side. Exiting turn 1 they go. VTech down to the inside with DRS. Knuckles Slayerized having a good look here, despite the Williams being to the inside as they go through turn 3 now. Oh, this is going to get risky if they make it through turn 4, but the action will happen at turn 3, and around goes Slayerized. Oh, when he's facing the wrong way of the circuit, he'll have to get the car back round or else the game will disqualify him. But, I mean, he has to wait for there to be clear track. Now has got to be the time, but it still doesn't happen. He's very much risking disqualification here. He's got to get the car turned around. If he doesn't, it's going to be all over for Slayerized. And there, well, oh, I tell you what, I got confused. I thought that was Slayerized just being disqualified. No, it was Ray picking up 3 seconds. Well, you knew the action and the fireworks were going to happen there. Of course, they went side by side through turn 3. I don't believe damage was caused to the Red Bull. Definitely contact. As Reimer on the way into the pit lane. Bit of an early stop, although, of course, he is on the soft tires. That's kind of a given. That'll tell me that anybody else who started on the softs will be in here shortly. Into the pit lane he goes. Medium tires going on. That is a long time to have to go on those medium tires. Does he believe that he can... Does he believe that a safety car is going to be on its way to allow him to stop later for perhaps another set of softs or another set of mediums? I don't know. That is a really risky call from Reimer. But again, he's a driver that likes those calls. He's a driver that enjoys taking risks. And, well, he's doing another one here, that's for sure. So the two Haas drivers atop the grid a couple of laps ago made the gap up to 4.5. They've not really put any time on Ayahuasca since. We are starting to see, I believe, the hard tires starting to get slightly more competitive here. Whether that's the case or not, I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to wait. Only about to enter the 10th lap of the Grand Prix, and there it is up to the 5th second now. As we see a little bit further back, a couple of the drivers, these two, that was a genuine battle going on there. I think maybe, did Frenchie have an error coming out of turn 5? It kind of looked as if that was the case. Down the pit straight they go. Final Flame not necessarily attacking this time. Although still keeping the gap behind. Oh, we've got a yellow flag. And Knuckles is, well, something happened with him. No, I believe he's just gone wide. And he'll be losing the spot to the inside for Manigos there. Thankfully, there's a good bit of runoff, at least going through Sector 3. Through Sector 1 and 2, that's not always the case. So Knuckles getting a bit lucky there that he's not hit anything. He only loses a couple spots, stays on track, and stays up to racing speed for the most part as well. That's kind of a best-case scenario when you have an error like that. A little bit further back, we've got Kate Thomas to the inside of Brian Mosser. A little contact there. Nothing too much. He will retain DRS. Going down the hill into turn 2, and, well, Kate Thomas is going to have that one. On the soft tires, no less. Those are 9-lap-old softs. Which is a little surprising how they're still that competitive this late in the stint. A little surprising, if you ask me. The battle now for P3 with Davey DeBest within 8.5 tenths of Ayahuasca. Remember, Reimer was, in that position for the longest time and did not get the opportunity to overtake the Alpine. I think what Reimer was hoping to do was to be able to get around the Alpine early and stay within contention. And even if it took him a couple laps, if he got around Ayahuasca, at that point the gap was only 0.2 of a second. As we see now, the Haas drivers battling exiting turn 1. Final Flame has taken the lead. Now, it's interesting to me because I don't know truthfully how much communication goes on between our drivers here. There's no real way for me to tell that. I'm thinking that may have been planned, though. It has to be said. Because we were seeing Final Flame get within, only a couple of tenths of Wild Poros heading into turn 1, and I think now we're starting to see the gap get larger. It's up to 0.6 of a second now. Remember, the two Haas drivers on similar strategies both started the race on the medium tires. As DB DeBest, I think Ayahuasca's had an error. Yes, he has. This is exiting turn 5 and nearly collides with the Ferrari electric blade. Exiting turn 5, Ayahuasca goes round and goes down to P6. I thought DB DeBest had made an unexpected move. No, I think it was just purely the error there from the Williams, or from the Alpine. He was in the Williams last season, I believe. That's why I got confused there. Still the top two with a 7-second advantage over DB DeBest, but I would argue that Mercedes will definitely be quicker than the Alpine. Although I could be wrong. Is DB DeBest on medium tires as well? Yes, he is. Adaltonian P10 at the moment, looking to get past Knuckles here. Knuckles having a little bit of a moment last time by through turn 14. Looks as if whatever ailments he faced is over and done with now, and he can focus on defending from the charging AlphaTauri behind. I tell you what, Adaltonian up a couple of spots here, 4 of which to be exact. That's a pretty good result for the AlphaTauri for the time being. And down to the inside on the Canadian here. Does he keep it? Yes, he does. Nicely done from Adaltonian. Shades of the vintage Austin, Texas resident there. All I'm missing no knowledge about him is his credit card number, the 3 digits on the back, and the expiration date. I don't know if Adoltonian still does it. He has a Formula One podcast with a driver by the name of, his gamertag is Lingy12. I tell you what, he won a couple of races here in Division 2. It was either Division 2 or Division 3 where he won races. And, I had been on his podcast a couple of times. That was years ago at this point. But I wonder if he still does it. It was a good time. What we see now is Reimer trying to overtake Adoltonian here, making his way. This is through turn 10 now. Reimer, these fresh medium tires will certainly be the quicker car, and he'll look to get past the AlphaTauri here quickly. He's going to have to do the move into turn 12. This is a bold spot to make something happen. Not often do you see this move, and Adoltonian keeping the inside. Side by side, a little bit of connection lag happening there, perhaps on the part of Adoltonian. Reimer, well, he had to fight for that one, but he's made the move happen. Nicely done. Up to 9th place. Now he is... being that he started the race on the soft tires, he would have taken a massive undercut. And whether it pays off for him or not is going to be the big question. Ray and Kate Thomas battling side by side now as they go through turn 14. Ray has the inside. Kate Thomas will have DRS, as you can see the rear wing open. And Valentine has gone off. Now this is exiting turn 11. Sorry, that's on the way into turn 11. Thankfully, he's not hit anything, and we stay green. Ray down to the inside. Cake had taken the spot around the outside, but Ray gets it back, and despite not having DRS, that's Alfa Romeo's got some pace. Still the battle for the lead now, 0.7 of a second. They've separated to 3rd place by 8 seconds. It's only taken them 13 laps to do so. That is an incredible amount of time for the laps that we've raced so far, and no safety car or virtual safety car either. Through the 6 and 7 chicane, through turn 8 now. I tell you what, Noganator... I tell you what, that was a mistake there from Noganator. I was about to say Hightower. That car looked a bit shaky. But where one mistake is made, another one is made. And I tell you what, the tandem of the Alfa Romeos here looking like they could make a move. And it looks as if the Alfa Romeos will invert position this time. Ray gets down the inside. Ray having stopped already as VTEC, the second driver to have started on the soft tires, into the pit lane now. I'm going to assume the hard tires going on here. See, this is where I thought Reimer was going to do, is take the hard tires after starting on the softs. That's not what he's done. He's gone for the mediums, which tells me he expects a safety car somewhere along midway through the race. It could very well happen. Cake Thomas into the pit lane now. He'll go to the mediums as well. A little bit of copying off of Reimer's strategy, which takes some guts in its own right. Again, Reimer very, very creative with the tire strategy as he makes his way now. I tell you what, fire up flow, making a mistake there going through turn 7. Reimer's going to have it round the outside through turn 8. Yes, he does. Well, that was a bit of an odd place to make that happen. Reimer had gone shallow into turn 6. Fire up flow had cut the turn 7 portion of the chicane, and that has allowed Reimer to go round the outside through turn 8 and make the spot. Nicely done. So now it's an Italian it's an Italian sandwich now. Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Because, I tell you what, bit of an oversteer there for Fire Up Flow. An Aston Martin sandwich with the Italian cold cuts in the middle because he had been chopped up there by Reimer. I'm just trying too hard now is what it is. Manny goes down to the inside. He'll make that move happen, and Fire Up Flow gets demoted to P8. Knuckles, I was going to say he was overtaking Adoltonian. Adoltonian is in the pit lane. Going to assume it's going to be the hard tires here for the AlphaTauri. And yes, they will. So we're seeing the first rounds of pit stops take place as we pretty much expected. The timeline provided by the game said 14 to 17. We're pretty much in that window as it is. Ayahuasca now, just gone wide through turn 4. That'll surely be a track limits warming. And now, Reimer down to the inside, exiting turn 5. And again, a very unconventional place to make something happen. And Reimer's done just that, into the top 5 for the Aston Martin here. As meanwhile, the top 2 Haas drivers here. This gap nearly outside of 9.5, almost 10 seconds back to 3rd. And while Electric Blade is not necessarily within pressuring distance on the Mercedes as well, he's an additional 6.5, and Reimer behind is an additional 6.5 behind to this battle. Although I believe we might be seeing some drivers pit soon. Matter of fact, there's DB DeBest in the pit lane now. So another one of the drivers in the medium tires into the pit lane and onto the hards. That'll promote Electric Blade to 3rd. Reimer to 4th. If he can get around him, yes, he will. So MWeS is going to lose a couple of spots here. Additionally to the Aston Martin of Mandigos and Fire Up Flow as well. He'll come out of the pit lane in P8. That's a good stop for him. VTech, well, I was going to say, went around the outside of Knuckles. It's into the pit lane for the Red Bull here. Medium to hards as well. Hightower in the pit lane as well. I'm going to assume it's going to be similarly a medium to hard stop here. Ahead of him as well, the Mercedes Van Boom Mason made the stop. It's a 3-second penalty for Ayahuasca, the third driver of the day, to make that error, and I'm assuming that's going up the hill through turn 4. Yeah, that was probably where it was. The grid's slightly spread out now. The closest battle on track, or if you could call it a battle, is that between the two drivers atop the grid. The Haas tandem of Final Flame and Wild Poros. Final Flame started on pole. Wild Poros took the lead into the first corner. And these two have not looked back since. It's a 17-second gap from second to third. This is currently the closest battle on track, although we do also have Fire Up Flow. Oh, into the pit lane here. Well, we've got Mandigos, Fire Up Flow. MWeS having already pit. He'll stay out. And VTech staying out as well. Of course, he, I believe, has already made his stop. Yes, he has. Adaltonian getting around Brian Mosser. Oh, Brian Mosser's made an error. Well, that's coming out of turn 12. So that's where that's happened. No wing damage to report. The track stays green. So despite the grid slightly being spread out, we're going to see a couple of good battles exiting the pit lane here. Mandigos and Fire Up Flow will be within a second of each other. Similarly, both of them on the hard compounded tires. Noganator trying around the outside of Mandigos. I tell you what, that one got close. Noganator does get the spot by the thinnest of margins. And now Mandigos finds himself in a battle here for 9th. A little bit of contact to the right rear tire. Tries to send it around the outside. Behind the AlphaTauri of Adaltonian, looking and hoping mistakes are made and he'll have to go wide. The Aston Martin had a bit of a wiggle. Adaltonian had to check up and go to the runoff area, and that's what he's done. It looks as if a Final Flame is into the pit lane now. So, Wild Poros in the lead. Adaltonian trying. Look at the defending going on there by Noganator. Mandigos wanted it down to the inside, not quite close enough. 3 drivers here, 4 drivers, suddenly within a second and a half of each other. As Hightower, a 3-second penalty for him, but still, the battle for 9th place. Reimer getting around Electric Blade as Electric Blade pits. Exiting turn 11, down to the inside. Mandigos is going to have it into turn 12. They're going to have to be side by side. Adaltonian again looking and hoping that a mistake is made. And I think maybe was there a collision there with Noganator. Noganator's gone quite deep into the corner. I'm going to have to believe that a collision was made. Noganator into the pit lane on what I believe are those fresh hards. No. He's those are the mediums he started the race on. So into the pit lane for the Noganator. Tried to make the long stint work. Didn't quite happen. Still the battle now for P9, as Adaltonian 0.7 of a second behind, with Fire Up Flow in pursuit as well. Noganator in the pit lane. Kate Thomas less than 0.3 of a second behind. Anbu Mason for the 14th spot. Wild Poros still in the lead after Final Flame pits, although Reimer within 2.5 seconds of the Haas here. The Haas not having DRS help from ahead now. Although Reimer, again, he started the race on the hard tires. He is now on considerably older tires than the driver ahead of him. DB DeBest, 0.6 of a second behind Ayahuasca. Adaltonian is starting to fall behind Mandigos just a little bit here. So all but Wild Poros, Ayahuasca, and Brian Mosser have yet to stop. Everybody else have made theirs. As it looks now, could this be Ayahuasca into the pit lane? No, DB DeBest is overtaking him down the pit straight. Very nicely done for the Mercedes. He'll get the 4th spot. So Reimer, who was certainly going to be hoping to improve upon the gap to second place, has actually lost about 1.5 seconds here. As Brian Mosser, he's into the pit lane. Yes, he is. Tell you what, good battle here. Kate Thomas down to the inside of Anbu Mason. Into the first corner, side by side. Kate Thomas squeezes his way down low, and it might have the spot. No, but, well, this is odd. Both of the drivers having DRS. Oh, well, maybe was Cake Thomas within a second of the car ahead who could have pit at the time. That could absolutely be the case. Say, both drivers having DRS would have been very odd for that, so that's what I'm going to assume happened. Wild Poros has yet to pit here. Remember, the Haas drivers both on the same strategy. Final Flame, the fastest lap of the race on the hards. 19-lap-old mediums for Wild Poros, so Reimer currently on 11-lap-old mediums. We can guarantee he can at least get to 20 laps. So in 10 laps from now, he'll be on lap 30. Yeah, I don't think Reimer can make the end here. He's got to hope for a safety car. As Ayahuasca into the pit lane, it's going to be the medium tires for Ayahuasca. Now, I tell you what, that Alpine looked dreadful on the hard tires. It has to be said. That car looked very, very uncomfortable on the hard tires. So maybe on the mediums here, can we see Ayahuasca try to shine? He'll come out ahead of Ray Ray and stay P7. Four-tenths of a second is fire-up flow to Adaltonian for the 10th spot. Adaltonian goes deep through turn 2. That could allow fire-up flow to have something here. He's not rightly close enough yet. And I think now we are seeing, yes, Wild Poros into the pit lane. With the McLaren of Valentine ahead of him, who will pick up a 5-second speeding penalty and will retire from the session, unfortunate for him. Valentine was having a halfway decent race as well and managed to make up a decent couple of spots and unfortunately had a bit of an accident going through turn 11. Soft tires for Wild Poros, that's an interesting strategy. Can the soft tires last over 10 laps? We saw Reimer take them about 9. But anything past that we knew was going to be relatively uncharted territory. So an interesting decision there, has to be said. Still a 3-car battle now happening for P10, actually P9 when you think about it. Adaltonian leads the charge down the pit straight. Knuckles now in 12th. Will he have an opportunity on Ray Ray? Ray Ray, remember, 13, now 14 lap-old medium tires. Down to the inside looks Knuckles. Oh, that's a bit of a lock up there on the back end for Ray Ray, side by side, going through the first corner. It's going to be a close one here. They'll have to go down the hill through turn 2. Wild Poros gets around Reimer. It's a Haas 1-2 once again, side by side. Knuckles trying the outside here as the two cars ahead battle. Very, very close. Up now through turn 4. This one could get dangerous here if they don't sort it out, and they do. Adaltonian stays ahead. In the battle with Ray Ray and Knuckles, they've now lost about a second back to the two drivers battling for 9th. We also have Andrew Mason about 4/10 behind Cake Thomas here. That'll be for the 13th spot. Mind you, Ray Ray also on a 3-second time penalty. Coming up closer on 10 laps to go here as Reimer losing the spot to DB DeBest and Reimer pitting here. And I'm pretty sure he's going to have to be going to the softs. He's not going to lose many positions, but I think strategically it was quite the risk for the Aston Martin. And unfortunately, I don't really think it's going to come to fruition unless a safety car comes out here late. That'll allow everybody else to come in and probably spit for another set of softs. So Reimer's going to have to be hoping for a safety car here soon, within the next couple of laps. 22nd lap of the Grand Prix underway. We've only lost the one driver of Valentine, and that was in the pit lane. Started with 20, down to 19. Side by side, Fire Up Flow and Adaltonian. Fire Up Flow having the outside and the aid of DRS. He'll have that spot well before turn 2. Nicely done. Knuckles goes deep through turn 2. It looked as if Ray Ray could have had a chance there. Instead, Ray Ray does not have the ability to hold on. Again, the medium tires, they're 15 laps old. There's no way they make it to the end. Although, albeit he did pit, I think, the lap after Reimer did. And Reimer took him about 16 laps. Oh, well, I tell you what, into the chicane they go. Ray Ray made that happen. Through the 6 and 7 chicane, which I deem as the worst chicane in Formula 1, Ray Ray's just made an overtake through. Unfortunately, we didn't get quite the best chance to see it, but how the hell could you have guessed that? Well, Ray Ray has P11 for now. Of course, he has the penalty to try to get around here, but he'll have to worry about that at a later date, as now... Well, I mean, you could just see the gap that the Haas drivers have pulled ahead of the rest of the grid here. Closest battle on track is that of Knuckles down to the inside of Ray Ray down the pit straight. And it looks as if that one may be made. Yes, it will. Cake Thomas under pressure from the Mercedes of Anbu, although I don't think Mason has quite enough to get around the McLaren at this point. Coming up closer to 10 laps to go here. Andrew Mason, in fairness to him, still 0.2 of a second away from the McLaren. Very, very close. Up the hill through turn 4. Only 3 drivers so far have picked up time penalties for exceeding track limits, which I thought was going to be much more. As it turns out, that's not the case. Now, this is interesting here. So, Final Flame has taken the hards. His teammate of Wild Poros has taken the softs. Wild Poros is closing in on Final Flame. Not by a noticeable amount, however. It's still 4.5 seconds, as it pretty much was once he came out of the pit lane. I don't think Wild Poros is really too concerned with finding the win here. I think a 1-2 for the Haas team would be exceptional for them. Once again, just to look at the races yet to come here. We do have the Albert Park circuit in Australia next week, the new and improved circuit, which has been absolutely brilliant for racing, both in the virtual and real side of the world. It looks as if my controller battery is low. Cake Thomas down to the inside of Ray Ray for P12. Into the first corner. Ray Ray is going to try to strike back. Oh, contact made there. Somehow Cake Thomas holds control of the car. I think Ray Ray, once he realized that contact was made, he kind of backed out. No harm, no foul for the time being. I don't believe Ray Ray has sustained any damage for that, so the track stays green. Well, anyways, yeah, Albert Park circuit next week, the Zandvoort circuit after that. Oh, and that is Ray Ray. Oh, into the barriers and a DNF, and I don't know what's happened there, but Ray Ray has gone straight into the barriers, much as if he was Felipe Massa heading up the hill there, and the safety car on track now. And I'm thinking, did Ray Ray, was there contact with Anbu Mason because Cake was ahead? With how straight into the barriers Ray Ray went, I'm assuming it was either some sort of technical mechanical error on his pedals or something. Which, by the way, Ray Ray, having just became one of the drivers to recently start driving on pedals, has done exceptionally well today. Unless he's gone back to controller, and I don't know it, but he's improved a lot. After last week, not even completing a lap of the Grand Prix. That was back in Jeddah. Ray Ray had done an exceptional job today for being a rookie on the pedals and on the steering wheel and pedal setup. So now, with under 10 laps to go, we're seeing drivers in the pit lane, and we're seeing soft tires be put on here for Adol Tony. And what I was about to say is the look at the schedule. So yeah, Zandvoort for round 4, Japan for round 5. Those are the upcoming rounds here for Division 2. I think I'm going to be going for into Division 1 for a couple of those, which is so great. I will always admit that here in Division 2 has the best racing in the Midwest F1 League, but when you get to be the voice of the league there for just a week at a time, it does feel really good. Nick and Mitch doing a hell of a job up there in D1. They have been, and you know, their stream setup is so professional. Of course, I mean, I don't want to say I'm the most tenured caster on the squad. I am, though. But, They do have the technical advantage, it does have to be said, and I have no problem letting them perform their technical and brilliant setups as they do perform in Division 1, so I tell you what, it's been very good to see them be part of this league. And, well, Buddy Trackside from CCRL, if you're listening to this, I know you're in the Discord. If you'd like to join the casting team as well, you are more than welcome. Your expertise will definitely be appreciative here. That is absolute for sure. Me and Trackside have a lot of good times in CCRL. Hasn't been on the call with me for the past couple of weeks, and I miss it a lot because he is a great partner to have in the booth. So, if you know Trackside and you're in a Discord with him, ping him. Tell him to be here. If he's got the time, naturally. So safety car on track. The two Haas drivers in an interesting position now because realistically they're even Stevens. Wild Poros, I believe, did both of them pit? Yes, they did. DB DeBest in an interesting spot now. Could he have the chance to spoil the party? It's an interesting scenario to say the least. Well, I'm assuming we're gonna... I mean, the grid is right spread out here. I'm assuming at this point, with still 10 laps to go, the safety car will stay out as long as it needs to pick up the entire grid. Two Haas drivers leading the grid here. VTech, I tell you what, I don't want to say a sleeper in this race, but up 6 positions since the off. He may be a driver to look out for here, has to be said. Electric Blade in this as well. Reimer, who pit earlier on. Again, Reimer was hoping for the safety car, and it came out after he kind of was hoping it was going to. And so he pit for the medium tires a couple of laps ago, so he is on the back foot here, as well as himself and Ayahuasca. Oh, what's happening here? Something must have happened with the Chiefs. Who the hell is Hollywood Brown? Well, he signed for the Chiefs. I don't know. Who pays attention to the Atlanta Falcons for fun? I mean, of course, you might now. Now that we see Kirk Cousins there. Which is unfortunate if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. Which I'm no Vikings fan, but I do enjoy seeing that team do good. I think I'm a Chiefs fan by heart. And I've been a Chiefs fan since the Alex Smith days, when I really started watching and understanding the game of football. But football will still never be my expertise. I think it's either soccer, baseball, and motorsports is kind of where my knowledge rests here, which sometimes it can do. And nope, not quite yet. All right, Damon, you're from Minnesota, and Kirk is gladly leaving. I mean, everyone is happy he's gone. You know, it's an interesting scenario, because I think Kirk Cousins, you know, he's not a good quarterback. He's not the best by far. But, I mean, who do they have now? They have Dobbs, right? I don't know. It's an interesting balance. Would you rather have... Would you rather have veterancy with Kirk Cousins, or would you rather have an upcoming talent like Joshua Dobbs? It's such an interesting position to be in, and, well, it leaves the offense in a very tough spot, because you might be looking at... Well, I don't know if Dalvin Cook is still there, and Justin Jefferson. Well, is Justin Jefferson on the team? Am I stupid? I forget if he is. But anytime you have a situation like that, no matter what the team is, no matter who the receivers are, it always leaves your team in a very interesting position. I'm from New England, and these days what I can see is that the Patriots are now beginning. They've gotten Mac Jones. Unfortunately, Mac Jones got a terrible chance in New England. Imagine trying to be the quarterback to replace Tom Brady and then not having any weapons around you realistically. But they've gotten a couple of good targets. They got the Austin Hooper, which is, I would say, top 7 tight ends in the league. So that's a good pickup. I'm curious if they draft him. I'm a Packers fan. Jefferson is, but he's not signing an extension. Safety car in this lap. I mean, I don't think the Vikings have that good of a pick, do they? I would assume if Jefferson doesn't extend, they could look to trade him. That would be a good deal there. I don't know. Especially if the Patriots want receivers and Bailey Zappi remains at quarterback, that could be definitely something that the Pats look up to. But we're back on track now. We're coming up to 5 laps to go here rather shortly. The Haas duo here atop the grid have been dominant all day, but now they've got drivers around them, which could spoil the party here. Green flag back in the air here in Hungary. The top 3 weave their way down to the inside. And I always love looking down the grid here and seeing the drivers weave down the straight. VTech, a driver who's had some pace today, up 6 positions since the off. Now it's an interesting situation. Do we see the 2 Haas drivers battle, or do they once again try to pool their resources and get out to a good advantage? That is going to be the question at hand. Down through turn 2 and through turn 3 now. Electric Blade really pressuring VTech here, as we see a lot of the cars just kind of filed their way through this first sector. Again, you're not really going to see the overtaking happening quite yet, especially when DRS not really in play until, what, it'll be lap 31 or 32. And that'll leave us with just a couple of laps of the DRS there, hoping the grid stays compact until then. Electric Blade, 0.2 of a second away from VTech for the 4th spot. Both of these drivers very talented in their own right. Electric Blade up 2, VTech up 6. He's been a driver, really is, I don't want to say flown under the radar, but I tell you what, he's done well here to get himself within reach of the podium. DB2S, however, is starting to fall outside of the gap on the Haas duo here, about 0.7 of a second, so he's not really gaining time, but he is starting to lose it, definitely, I would think. Reimer entering this battle. Now, remember, Reimer started, he started on the soft tires, went to the mediums very early on. It was on the 9th lap of the Grand Prix, pit about 2 laps before the safety car came out, and is now on the medium tires in a sea of drivers on the softs. It's a difficult spot to be in, but to Reimer's credit, could he have the best tires by the end of the Grand Prix? It'll take a lot of saving up to do, and it'll take a lot of racing for the drivers on the softs around him to really kind of get him back into play. Reimer, remember, on a streak of 2 races in a row now, with back-to-back second-place finishes. It doesn't appear that streak is going to be upheld today, but a good top 5 will suit Reimer well here. He is down a couple of positions, but I think that was strategically more than being overtaken on track, has to be said. So Wild Poros is now outside of a second on his teammate of Final Flame. Remember, no DRS in play. DB2S still trying to be within a second of Wild Poros. VTech starting to fall off here as Hightower up to 6 seconds in penalty. One of only 3 drivers to pick up time penalties so far today, and well, he's done it twice now. Ayahuasca, who that car looked very uncomfortable on the hards throughout the majority of the Grand Prix. Now P7, 3 seconds of penalty, but on fresh mediums alongside Reimer here. DRS is enabled. They won't get it until next time by exiting turn 14, and it is just the one, It is just the one detection zone, so even if they are within a second exiting turn 1 here, they will not have it heading to turn 2 this time. As you can see now, that was the DRS detection line, or activation line, and they don't have it, so they'll have to wait one more lap to really get to use it. With the 32nd lap of the Grand Prix, it'll be 4 laps to go. Oh, that was gone quite wide there for Electric Blade. He looks like he could be in trouble here. Reimer trying to pressure, trying to get himself back into the top 5. Again, we're thinking Reimer's mediums could be the better of the tires come the end of the Grand Prix, but he has to make his moves now. He's not going to be in position to fight for the podium unless he can get around both Electric Blade and VTech here with the aid of DRS. And, well, even then, those 2 drivers, I would argue, quicker than Reimer for the time being. I don't know, it's a tough position to be in. I think if Reimer kind of played it normally on strategy, he could have had a fair shot for the podium here, but he chose to get gutsy, and, well, fortune favors the bold, that is the old saying. And could Reimer have fortune here if he's able to hold on? He'll have DRS now. Even if Electric Blade has it ahead with VTech, they're not really going to have the opportunity to defend against Reimer here, down to the inside, and Reimer will get the 5th spot. Does he hold it? That's the question. Electric Blade, does he look to get away well off the corner? He does. Reimer will have DRS a second time. We'll now have to look at Visa Cash App VTech here. In through turn 2. It's not going to happen yet, so we'll have to wait until exiting turn 14. It is after that a 2.5 second advantage for DB2S over the 4th spot here. I will say DB2S is within 0.7 on Wild Poros. This could be a move to be made here. Wild Poros has not had a good start after the safety car. He is now outside of 2.5 seconds on his teammate. And remember, into the first corner, Wild Poros took the lead, which we thought was an incredible maneuver to be made. And the positions were inverted. I think it was pretty... Oh, well, we've got Brian Mosser off at the back. That's exiting turn 5, I'm afraid. It was pretty common idea that Final Flame was the quicker of the drivers. They had made the swap, and they hadn't looked back since. And now it's less than 0.2 of a second here between 2nd and 3rd. DRS will be activated. Down the pit straight they go. 3 laps to go here, as DB DeBest down to the inside of the Haas of Wild Poros, and that move will be made, and they'll have the second dose of DRS exiting turn 1. Reimer does get around VTech into turn 1. I think Ayahuasca getting around Electric Blade as well as they exit the corner. Yes, Reimer will have DRS again, and now has 2.5 seconds back to the Haas of Wild Poros to get himself onto the podium for the 3rd consecutive race. What a achievement that would be if he does just that. Either way, we're looking at a great result for the Haas team here. But once again, if we look at the constructor standings that we're heading into tonight, the Haas team had not scored. 20 points behind AlphaTauri for P7. Haas, Williams, and Mercedes had not scored until presumably tonight. I would say, though, that Haas team is going to look like it's going to have a great day if all goes to plan. Still a couple of laps of racing here. I've seen crazier things happen. In fact, in Japan, in the Monkey Mafia race, this last week, Reimer, I think it was, a collision entering the final lap of the Grand Prix ended his chances of winning as the car DNF'd. I'm pretty sure I'm getting that right. It probably was him. Now exiting turn 14, DRS activated here for Ayahuasca. He does have a penalty, but for the time being, he's put himself some solid ground here, getting around VTech. VTech losing positions here, has to be said. He had lost one to Reimer, now loses one to Ayahuasca as well, of course only temporarily, and I'm starting to believe that those on the medium tires might be starting to get better here. Reimer's within a second of Wild Poros as they make their way into Sector 1, or into Sector 2 now for the penultimate time. Up through turn 5 they go. Reimer now within 8.5 tenths here. Very much closing in, and again, Reimer, one of those drivers that does tend to set his car up for the slow speed sectors. This is where I think Reimer could come alive and make a lunge for the podium here. It's going to depend on Wild Poros' defending abilities. His teammate has done a lot of good work today, and he's about to start the final lap of the Grand Prix as he makes his way through turn 13 now. Reimer within 0.7 of a second to make the overtake. I estimate he'll need to be within 0.5 of a second as he exits turn 14. That would make it comfortable at least. That was a wiggle there coming out of turn 13. Through the final corner now, Reimer is close to the Haas here as they make their way down the pit straight. DRS activated. It's half a second here. Reimer's going to have to use the battery. He's not got much left. Final lap of the Grand Prix. Does he lunge to the inside? It was defending there from Wild Poros, but the Haas will go deep into the corner, and Reimer will have the inside. Oh, but he loses the car, and oh, into the barriers. No, and Reimer's off. Damn it. A good battle it was, and it ends like that. Pure error on the part of Reimer, it has to be said. Oh, and we've got a conundrum happening at turn 2. Several drivers sprawling across the circuit here as Noganator has a 5-second penalty for a collision with Frenchie. So heartbreaking for the Aston Martin there. And I say damn it really because it was going to be a great battle, and it's unfortunate it had to end like that. But how it'll end for the Haas team today will be glory and excitement as Final Flame is about to round the final corner here. It's been a dominant day for the Haas team. Final Flame will cap the display with the win. He will take the win here in Hungary. The second round of the season goes the way of Final Flame. DB DeBest, he finishes second after getting around Wild Poros there a couple of laps to the end. Ayahuasca crosses the line fourth. He will be overtaken by VTech with net penalties. He misses out on that fourth spot by about 6.5 of a second. And as they make their way across the line here, oh, Poros has DNF from the session before. Now you see, this is where the game messes up here because Poros had crossed the line second. He has retired now, so the game won't show him in the second spot, or in the third spot where he belongs. The order in which you're looking at now is not correct. Wild Poros has finished third, but he has chosen to retire and leave the session before the results screen coming up here, which is why, with cars still on track, that is why he will not be shown in the correct positioning. Either way, VTech picking up driver of the day. That's absolutely deserved. Final Flame, what a Grand Prix it was for him. He didn't lead from start to finish. His teammate had overtaken him at the start. The positions became inverted there, and Final Flame, even with the safety car, never looked back. A great result for him today. Well, after it's all said and done here in Hungary, Final Flame takes the win. MWeS second, Wild Poros third. Of course, he retired on track as there was cars still out there after crossing the line. He finishes third. VTech fourth, Ayahuasca fifth, Electric Blade sixth, Mandigo seventh, eighth is Fire Up Flow, ninth Adeltonian, 10th Knuckles, 11th is Cake Thomas, 12th is Ambu Mason, 13th is Frenchie, 14th is Hightower, 15th is Brian Mosser, 14th is Hightower, 15th Brian Mosser, 16th is Slayerized, 17th Noganator. Wild Poros did finish the race. I don't know why it shows him in P17 now. Unfortunately for Reimer, and on the way back, they did not finish the Grand Prix. Well, drama there at the end as we head to the Albert Park circuit next week for round 3. Even more drama could be afoot. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting us into your homes once again here. We'll see you next time.